Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? How we doing? Give me a big thumbs up if you can hear me in the chat. Let me know. I see North Carolina's in the house. What else do I got? I got Houston. North Carolina. What do I got? Thumbs up. Okay. Let's take a look. Okay. Someone said someone's oh man, everyone's throwing a lot of long comments in there. Long comments, a lot of words. Thumbs up, everyone can hear me. Awesome sauce. So welcome every single person here to wonderful, fantastic Stew Crew webinar where we're going to be going over agency, everything you need to know. Well, most of what you need to know. If you do have questions, keep in mind if you're watching me live, I got my eyeballs on you guys, okay? So I'm watching you. I'm seeing you out in the chat. So keep in mind, if you do have a question, concern, burning desire, okay, then type it in the chat. I see someone from Long Island, New York. Oh, I am a big Islanders fan. So if you want to score some brownie points, throw some Islanders stuff up there. If you're an Islanders fan, whenever I see that, I always have to throw that out there for those of you who don't know my sports affiliations. Big New York Islander fan. So, you guys have to deal with that. So let's talk about what we're going to be going over tonight. And also give me a big smile if you guys are coming in here for the first time, because I know I have some Stooby newbies. So if you are a newbie, give me a big smile. I want to see who you are out there. I want to welcome you. So I got a whole bunch of people are talking in the chat. Some people scheduling their private tutoring session. Keep in mind, if you do want to make private tutoring a part of your study schedule, me and Cynthia are booking up quickly. So get your time in ASAP, okay? That is super duper uber important, okay? If you do want to make it, because I hate seeing people who want to make it a part of their study habits and get lost in the shuffle. So remember, if you do want to do that, you go to prepagent.com, click on the More button down in the upper right-hand corner, and click on private tutoring. We'd be more than happy to help you guys out. Schedule a private tutoring session with us today. Okay, well, not today, but for another today. So let's talk about agency. All right, guys? So let's keep it moving and grooving. So what we're going to do tonight, we're going to go over some agency topics, some things that we need to know about agency, okay? And we're going to talk about agency just in general, just like the law of agency. So someone said, let's take a look. Let's get into this. Someone said to me, thank you for the math tutoring this morning. Yeah, we did a torture session. It was always good to see you guys. Always good having you guys in the tutoring session. So let's talk agency today, though. So what I want to ask you guys is this. What is the general law of agency? When I say agency, what do you think? What is agency? What is the law of agency? What is that? What is that thing? Okay. And I'm open to any kind of answer you could give me, because I just gave you a broad stroke of the pen kind of question. And I want to see what you guys think agency is. Okay? What is agency? Okay. Someone said they're from NorCal. So is agency a contract? Someone just said contract in there. Oh, Eric has my favorite. You know what? We could just stop at Eric's response. And I think that I might go with that as my actual definition from now on. Eric said fiduciary stuff. So here's what it is. I'm going to give you the Stu definition of what agency is. It's when someone works on behalf of or for someone known as the principal or client. So whenever you have a situation where you are an agent, okay? So it's when an agent works on behalf of or represents someone who is identified as the client or principal. Client or principal are going to be the same thing. Now, when we're talking about agency doesn't just have to do with real estate. Just so you guys know, agency is not something that we're just going to deal with in real estate. Nay, okay? That is something that is going to permeate into different aspects of life as well. I'm going to give you some examples, and we're going to talk about the three different types of agency when we're talking about the laws of agency. So let's talk about universal agency. Guys, what is universal agency? Tell me what this is. What is that? Okay. Let's see. What is universal agency? So, universal agency is when an agent represents a principal or client and they have universality in regards to their representation of them or how they work on behalf of them. So it's going to have someone, so someone said total control, pretty much. So it's usually if you've been made an attorney in fact through power of attorney, right? So like I have power of attorney for my grandparents. My grandparents, if you haven't heard me talk about my grandparents, they're 95 and 84. God bless, they live on their own, okay? And until last week, they had a small little dog too that they took care of that was blind and deaf. So yeah, a little sad face there. But my grandparents live on their own, but I do have power of attorney over them. So what can I do with power of attorney as a universal agent? I could go lease a car for them. Look, if I was just living dangerously, okay, if I was just living dangerously and I said, hey, Grandpa, I know you're 95, but do you want to get a Lamborghini? You know, you live once, right? Let's say I wanted to go buy him a Lamborghini. I could do that, okay? I could do that. Put it right in his name. Benny Velez. Bam. Lamborghini. So that would be a riot and a half. Wouldn't last long, and you might have to lock me up because I'm probably endangering a couple lives there. So someone said I'm blessed. I really am blessed to have them. Still, they're living on their own. They cook their own meals. It's crazy. It's crazy. I know. To be 37 and have my grandparents not like literally just living on their own, it's absolutely amazing. I couldn't be more blessed. So yes, a universal agency. Getting back to the nitty gritty of things, universal agency is when you could represent someone and you have universality. So there is absolutely no limit to what you can and cannot bind them to. Okay, so that is absolutely fantastic right there. That's universal agency. Everyone usually gets that. So what about general agency? What is general agency? Talk to me about that, guys. So Michelle asked a great question. Is there a date agency ends? Sometimes. Agency could be finite. Yes, absolutely. Okay. Someone said my aunt is 97 and looks 70. Yeah, my grandparents, like if you met them, like other than my grandfather, absolutely just, he doesn't, short-term memory, gone. No. Not happening. But long-term memory, it's still there. Like he's still going and he has an appetite. He's doing fantastic. So property manager would be an example of general agency. So what I'm going to tell you is this. Let's talk a little bit about what general agency actually is, because what I don't want you to do, and listen to me very carefully. I don't want you to just get into general agency as a property manager. Yes, that is a great example of one, but let's talk about what it really is. It's when someone has agency within one business aspect of someone's life. So listen to what I'm going to tell you. Let's say Joe, okay? Let's say Prep Agent Joe has 5 buildings, okay? And he says, Stu, I'm going to give you this building. And I ask him, I go, why are we going to give me that building? And he said, because it's the only one of my buildings that has a fun house and it just reminds me of you. And I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. Yes, I love to have the building with the fun house. So Joe gives me the fun house building, okay? And I'm managing that one. And Cynthia has the another building that Joe owns. And Cynthia asked, why is that her building? It's in the shape of a cowgirl boot. Okay, so it's a little bit of Texas. So she has the Texas Cowgirl Boot building, and I got the Funhouse building. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you. You ready? If there's a plumbing issue at the Funhouse apartment building, okay, if there is an electrical issue, if there is any kind of thing like that, guess what? That's going to be Stu's responsibility. That is the Funhouse building. Joe has made Stu the general agent of the Funhouse building, okay? Now, if Joe had to go lease a car. Okay, let's say he wanted to get an upgrade. He said, Stu, I want to get a Tesla. I want to be a cool cat. I want to get a Tesla. Okay. Someone said the funhouse apartment sounds scary. I'm actually, little known fact about me, I love horror movies, and my wife hates them. So Mrs. Stu hates horror movies. So I actually go with my friend who's a big horror fan, and I'm the third wheel. I basically go on with so it's literally the three of us. It's me, him, and his girlfriend, and we go to see horror movies together. And Mrs. Stu totally sits out on that, but I am a big horror fan. So that was a side note. Anyway, what I was telling you guys is this. So if I had any kind of issues, concerns, or anything at the Fun House apartment building, that would be my responsibility as the general agent for that, the property manager. Now, Cynthia has the cowgirl, cowboy boot apartment building. Guess what? That one is going to be hers. If there's something that's going to happen there, she's going to be responsible for that. Now, if something happened at mine, Cynthia wouldn't be able to do anything about that because this is my lane. That is her lane. And then Joe's private personal life, as far as him leasing a Tesla, buying a Tesla, I couldn't bind him to any contracts like that. That is outside the purview of what I do. So do you guys understand that what happens with general agency, that property manager is a perfect, fantastic, wonderful, amazing example of it. Property manager is a great example, but what happens is you're just stuck to like one little bubble. You have universality within one business aspect. So you could do a lot of different things, okay, in one business aspect. Oh my gosh, I'm looking at the chat now because I had my eyes away from it. I had to take it away from it because otherwise I would have gotten distracted. Kristen, pour one out. You're that's it. You're moving on. She passed in Texas. Congrats. Big gold star for you. Big Lone Star State gold star for you. Fantastic. You've been in the chats. You've been in the webinars so much. And I'll tell you this, guys, a little side plug. If you notice something, the people who come into the live webinars, and look, I know that not every single one of you gets the chance to do it. I know some of you are religious. You listen to this at home on recording, and I say to you guys, listen, that is fantastic. But if you do this regularly, listen, we put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into doing this. And I will tell you, it's not just because, we do it for our health. We do it because we want to get you to pass the exam. The people who are in here more often, the ones that are regulars, the ones that are Stu Crew enthusiasts that are going to get a fountain pen when they pass, guess what? Those are the kinds of people that are going to be passing the test a little bit easier than some other people. So if you see people in here all the time, you'll notice they usually come in here, bam, out the door. Okay, that's what we do. Spend a little time with us, spend a little bit of your day with us, and we take care of you, no problem. We make sure you get the information that you need. Speaking of that, oh, we get a pen. Oh, you get it for yourself. I could give you recommendations. You can get it for yourself. What is special agency? What is this? Someone said, yeehaw. Crystal sneaking on at work. Oh my gosh. Okay. So limited duties, one specific job. Yeah, one thing. So guess what? What are some examples? Okay. What are some examples of this? And Vanetta said she's not doing too well. Hasn't passed the exam. Listen to what I'm going to tell you guys. Now, I see a lot of you guys, who do fail the exam. I'm going to tell you this. Listen to me. You need a little pep talk, okay? Before we go into special agency. Side note with failing the exam is A-okay. This is a hard test. Listen, if this was an easy test, I wouldn't have a job. I'd be flipping burgers somewhere. You would see Stu taking your order at McDonald's, seeing if you want maybe an extra chicken nug. I'm being the hero that I can be. You order a 10-piece, I give you 11. Yeah, I mean, I would be doing that. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing here. So, guys, the fact that this test is hard is something that I want you to keep that in the back of your mind. So don't get discouraged if you fail, because it's about a 40% pass rate across the country as far as the test is concerned. That's the average. Okay. So don't beat yourself up. Don't beat yourself up at all. Listen, I'm going to tell you this. I'm the leader of the Stu Crew. I come on here. I give you all this education. About 15 years ago, when I first took my broker's exam, I failed my broker's exam by 1 point. So listen, I know what it's like. Okay? I know what it's like. That's a little secret about me. No one knows that. Not even Joe. So shh. shh. Otherwise, that's it. He's going to fire me. So what is special agency? We said it's one task. It's one thing. The best example, that's typically real estate agents when we're taking a listing, right? Okay. When we're taking a listing. So what happens is this, or when we're representing a buyer, okay? So what happens is this. If I take a listing, I am employed to go out and find a buyer, right? I'm employed to go out and find a buyer. And then what happens is this. If there's a leak in the roof, okay, if there's a leak in the roof, then what happens is this. I could call up the seller and say, hey, your roof is leaking. And then he would be like this. He'd be like, you know, you say roof really funny. And I'd be like, shh. So what happens is this. I told him, I said, there's a leak in the roof, and, you know, you have to get it fixed. And he'd be like, can you do that for me? Now, here's the thing. You could be a good person, okay? You could be a good person and, like, call up and, like, do things for him, but you do not have the authority to just take it upon yourself, do it, bind your client to any kind of payment or anything like that. You do not have that authority. You have one sole job, one sole responsibility, okay? So that's the situation there. And a couple of you people were laughing at me because I know some of you guys always post that you know, I and I say rough really funny, but that's shh. Don't make fun of anybody. So look at this. I know I don't put many pictures of myself up here, but guess what? I'm going to put a picture of me and one of my clients before COVID. This was well before COVID, and that's one of my clients. So that is a client or principal, okay? Right here. That's a client or principal, okay? We enlarge that. Client principal right here. And then we work for the client or principal. So who is a customer, okay? Who is a customer? Someone said we're all trying to be special agents, the most special of agents. Yes, the most special of agents. So who is a customer? The hatchet throwing was super fun. You literally, it was great. It was fantastic. They give you these really sharp hatchets and you throw it there. Manliest thing I've ever done in my entire life. Like I haven't gone hunting, so I can't say that, but that's the situation there. Ooh, some people are saying, so someone said the customer is the buyer. Well, if I'm the seller's agent, okay, if I'm the seller's agent, they would be the buyer. It's the third party. So, so basically what it is this. If I'm representing the seller, it would be the buyer. If I'm representing the buyer, it would be the seller. And what do we owe them as far as fiduciary responsibilities? Do we owe them anything? Someone said, oh, I've wanted to do that. Oh, yeah, there's also the anger rage rooms where you could bring things in and just break them. I took a bunch of, like, slight side note, I took a bunch of, I think 30 real estate agents before the pandemic. Took 30 real estate agents and we went to the anger room where we broke stuff. Like, Google that. That's a ton of fun. So we owe a customer who is the third party, right? So if we're working with a buyer, that would be the seller. If we're working with the seller, that would be the buyer. We owe them honest and fair dealing, okay? Honest and fair dealing. So let's look at the fiduciary responsibility, shall we? We got old car, okay? And I think that's, let me see, is that a Camaro or Mustang? I don't know. I'm being a really bad car guy right now. But old car, so what does that stand for? Let me tell you about that. So the fiduciary duties are what an agent owes a client. Okay? Is what an agent owes a client. So we owe them obedience, loyalty, disclosure, confidentiality, accounting, and reasonable care. So let me go into, I think it looks like a Mustang or a Charger. I don't know. So we're going to go into each one and what this means, okay? So situation is this. Obedience, okay? Obedience. So Mag asked, what's old car? Old car is the fiduciary duties that we owe a client and we as an agent. So anytime that there is an agency relationship of some sort, okay, anytime that there's an agency relationship of some sort, you owe the client fiduciary duties, okay? So obedience, what does that mean? What does obedience mean? That means That means that you have to be obedient as long as it is lawful instructions. If it is lawful instructions, okay, if it is lawful instructions, you must be obedient. So there's a question I think that's floating around on some tests that goes along the lines of they give you power of attorney because they're going on vacation to, African safari, and they're going to be gone for like 3 months, and they're not going to have access to phone or anything. And they tell you to accept any offer over X. And then an offer comes in over X, and they say, what do you do? Okay. And the answer to that is you obey. Okay. Because they're actually testing your knowledge of the fiduciary duty of obedience. Okay. Because what happens is this: as long as it is lawful, that is, you do what they tell you to do. Now, even if it's stupid, you could say to them, I think that's stupid, Mr. Client. Doesn't matter. Okay? So that is the situation there. Amanda's telling me that I can tell it's a Mustang by the grill and the headlights. Okay, I'm going to tell you this. I am not much of a car person. I wish that I was. I'm the kind of car person that, like, I could sit in a car, I could look cool in a car, I could bring a leather jacket, I could do all that kind of stuff. But if you ask me like things about cars, like I'm like that kind of guy. I'm a squishy kind of guy. I'm not a hands-on. I have 2 left thumbs, okay? I'm a charmer, a talker. I am not a build some stuff for you kind of guy. I tried to build a bench once, and my wife laughed at it after about 8 hours worth of work. So yeah, no, that's not happening. Loyalty. What is the fiduciary duty of loyalty? Loyalty is this. You're putting your client's interest, okay? You're putting your client's interest above yours, okay? You're putting your client's interest above yours. Slater said squishy. Yeah, I'm short, fat, and pudgy, so I'm squishy. I got squished. That's what it is. That's what I mean by squishy. Okay, I like raviolis. I eat things. I'm not one of those that work out. I don't have a 6-pack. I have a 6-pack of Shirley Temple bottled soda in the fridge. But loyalty, that's when you put your client's interest above yours. So let's give you an example of when an agent would be naughty with that. Okay. They would be naughty with that when they say, hey, I don't want to show you that home because you know what? My commission on that, the co-broke on that is too low. I'm not going to make enough money. I'm not going to show my client that home because I don't think that that's something that I want to show because I won't make enough money. That is putting your interest, okay, your interest above the client's, okay? That's putting your interest above the clients. Oh, some of you were talking about the potato diet I was thinking about going on. No, my wife told me I couldn't go on the potato diet because apparently that's not healthy. She said eating just potatoes is not healthy. So, and then I went to my doctor, and my doctor told me, he yelled at me too because my wife told on me. And I said, no, all right, I can't do that. Okay. So Joy said here, she wrote a great question. Hi, Mr. Stu. When a client asks for only cash offers, can you also present other non-offers? If the client says to you, do not present anything other than cash offers to me, okay? If the client says, do not present anything other than cash offers to me, then that's a lawful thing. That's a lawful thing, okay? So if it's lawful, if it's obedient, if it's lawful, then you have to be obedient, okay? So if they say don't present anything other than that, I would put it in a practical sense, I would put it in writing. As a broker, manager, person who oversees agents, I would do that, like to cover my butts. But that's the situation there. Patricia said too many starches in the potatoes diet. Never enough starches. Starches make me smile. Like, I mean, you want a happy stew. You don't want a grumpy stew. So disclosure. Okay. Situation is this. Okay. So someone asked a very specific question. I'm going to answer it as we kind of talk about disclosure. So the question was, hey, Stu, what if the person wants you to sign page 13 on the contract to make sure you presented? That's super state specific. You're literally talking about a specific page on a contract. And here's the thing. Basically, bottom line is this. If the seller doesn't want to have the offer presented, I mean, that trumps it, because its bottom line is the seller doesn't have to entertain the offer. Like if you have on file, seller doesn't want to look at anything below this or anything along these terms. Okay, that's the situation there. Okay, so disclosure is going to be when you have a situation where everything. Okay, every single thing has to go to your client. You can't withhold stuff from your client. You can't do that. You cannot withhold stuff from your client. You can't do that, okay? You can't do that. So no matter what you have, okay? So if someone says to you, this is why agency disclosures are important, because here's the thing. You can't be talking to someone, interacting with them, and then all of a sudden they say something, and it now puts you in a situation where because you didn't disclose how you intend to work with them and what your agency relationships are, okay? They have now said something that requires you to now tell the buyer or the seller that, okay? So that's why when you're hosting an open house, you have to disclose to the people coming in, hey, according with your state laws, state regulations, you have to provide them with some sort of agency disclosure as to how you intend to work with them, where your agency relationship lies, so that if they have diarrhea of the mouth where they just go blah, 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 then what happens is it's not like, oh, no, we can't do that, okay? And that's basically what agency really is in disclosure. And that's why we have to make sure that up front, before any substantive conversation occurs, that the clients know how you can work with them and how you intend to work with them, okay? So also, you have to disclose all material facts. You have to disclose all material facts regardless of whether you have fiduciary duty of disclosure or not, okay? Whether you have the fiduciary duty of disclosure or not, because you have to disclose material facts to customers as well. So some people, and I think the way even Cynthia explains it, I think that she actually says honesty, fair dealing, and disclosure. I just say honesty and fairness because that's how I've seen it written on the test. And like I said, that's one of the reasons why, hey, guess what? You're here with Prep Agent. You're getting different instructors. We're going to tell you different ways of doing this. We're going to tell you our way. So that's why it's good to get on a whole bunch of our webinars. Here's the thing. You might come on to my webinar and you might be like, oh, man, he talks really fast. Maybe it's not the right day for you. Maybe you want to hear something a little different. So we have a lot of exposure to a lot of different schools of thought. So that is the situation there. I want you to engage in all of the instructors because we all have something good to offer, okay? We all have something good to offer. So what about confidentiality? Oh, man, that's a pretty simple one, right? You have to keep confidential things that you shouldn't be saying to other people. You can't sprickens to other people, okay? Someone said, for example, basement had a leakage and the owner fixed it, but as an agent, we have to disclose it. Yeah, even if it's fixed. If you have knowledge of it, yeah, disclose. Disclose. Unless there is a law on paper that says you do not have to disclose it or you cannot disclose it, and that goes with some of your states, okay? Some of your states in regards to like stigmas and things like that, okay? So someone asked me, can you clarify ostensible agency? I'll make it real simple. I use ostensible agency as synonymous. That's how I always learned it. I learned it as synonymous with implied agency, okay? Synonymous with implied agency. You'll read different textbooks where they might say different things. You'll speak to different teachers that might say otherwise. I always read, and I'm giving you my opinion of it, that implied agency and ostensible agency are the same thing. The words ostensible and implied are the same. And what that means is it's the same as like an implied contract. It's understood through actions. So if I don't have an agency agreement with somebody, right? If I don't have an agency agreement with someone and I say I put them in my car and I drive them to a home and I show them a home and the seller and the seller's agent are there, through my actions of showing these people, these potential buyers, the home, I would say that is either ostensible or implied. Now, there are people, like I said, who split hairs and say that there's a difference between ostensible and implied. I say nay, and I say that they are the same. And for the purposes of your test and the kind of questions that they would ask you around that, I would say that that's the situation there. If you're asking me, and clearly, since you're saying Stu, you're asking me. So that's the situation there. Yeah, and confidentiality doesn't die with the agency, right? So that is the situation there. So it doesn't die with the agency. So once the agency relationship terminates, you must keep confidential all the things that you would have kept confidential during the time of your agency agreement, okay? So that is something that does not end with confidentiality, with the agency terminating. And that's important too, because I work with like a lot of celebrities, and there's times where like people ask me, they're like, oh, I know you worked with so and so, can you? I'm like, no, no, you don't spill the beans, you don't kiss and tell, no. I barely even tell people who I work with, because everyone wants to work with Stu. So let's keep it moving and grooving. So Peggy asked a great question. Does confidentiality and disclosure conflict sometimes? No, it doesn't. Because here's the thing. There's things that you must disclose. There's things that you must legally disclose. Okay? And there's things that you must legally keep confidential. And although some people might argue that they are one and the same sometimes, that's not really the case. Like, if a seller says to me, I had to fix the leaky basement, I don't want you to tell anyone about that. You'd be like, no. Got to tell them. Can't do that. It's illegal to do that. Concealment is not the same as confidentiality, okay? So that's the whole thing there. So, no, that's not confidentiality. That's the need for disclosure in that situation. But what happens is this. There are things like personal information, motivations behind selling. If the seller doesn't want me to disclose those, or motivations behind buying, if the buyer doesn't want me to disclose some of those things, then those are things that aren't pertinent. They're not material facts to the deal, okay? So that's the thing. I don't think, and again, the situation like that with the leaky basement, you may think is a conflict, but in my opinion is not, because there is a clear-cut answer to that one. So I hope that helps you in regards to that. So we have two more fiduciary responsibilities that I want to go through before we end the webinar, okay? So the first one's going to be accounting. So what do I mean by accounting? Now, some of you say accountability, okay? Listen to what I'm going to tell you, okay? What I'm going to tell you is this. The accounting, some of you say accountability, and I always say accountability is like reasonable care, loyalty, obedience, confidentiality, kind of mushied into one. I always refer to the A in old car and the fiduciary responsibilities as accounting, meaning that, excuse me, if you had to hold any kind of escrow money, any kind of situation with the where you're accounting for funds, stuff like that. Okay, things like that are going to be why I say accounting and not accountability. Okay, I always say accounting because if you are going to be handling funds for them, and if you're going to be working as an agent for someone, the chances of you at some point handling funds are probably going to be pretty high. Okay, and Peggy said, just as a follow-up to her question before, which was a good one, and thank you for that, Peggy. So personal info confidentiality needs to be requested up front by the client. No, I mean, I keep that confidential. When I'm working with someone who is, and I'll just let you in on kind of like a little, like, if you want to know like the nitty gritty, like I know a lot of my students sometimes ask me about like, what's it like to work with celebrities? What's it like to work with this? I go, it's really boring. You're mostly working with their agent, and they're using pseudonyms. So what happens is most celebrities have legal pseudonyms that they go by. So like the contract is either going to have a redacted name, but the reason I don't prefer to have redacted names is because it sometimes raises an eyebrow. They go, so who is it? And they sometimes play like harder ball for in the negotiations and things like that. So I don't like doing that. I just use pseudonyms. I advise my clients to do so, and also to seek legal counsel. But things like this, if you're ever wondering what you should keep confidential and what you shouldn't, speak with your broker. And furthermore, I also encourage you to have good working relationships with business partners such as attorneys. And like I have several attorneys that I could speak to off the cuff that I don't pay any kind of retainer on. I just kind of speak to them and say, hey, can I pick your brain? They pick my brain in return. My brain is a lot less fruitful than theirs, though. So that is what I usually say with that. Now, let's look at situation here. Reasonable care. That means, okay, Someone said, I'm embarrassed to say this is the first time I put old car and fiduciary duty together. Guess what? We can end the conversation now. That's it. Done. Webinar over. So, situation is this, okay? Reasonable care is basically making sure that you do not overstep as far as your knowledge, as far as your boundaries, as far as what you really kind of getting in too much over your skis. So, when we're talking about the fiduciary duty of reasonable care, what we're really referring to is, hey, are you a new agent and working in commercial and have no idea what you're doing? You're not handling the client with reasonable care. Hey, are you a new agent and you're 19 and you've never sold a home before and you're just handling this by yourself? You're not acting with reasonable care. Like, you must do that. You must handle it with reasonable care. So here's the situation. I see a couple questions about trust accounts, okay, and things like that. What I will tell you is trust accounts are super state specific in regards to the handling of them. Because one of the questions was, I got a question on the exam about what an agent should do if the broker has 2 accounts. If you're talking about trust accounts, again, that's a state-specific question, okay? So that is the situation. Someone said defer to other professionals when giving advice. That is a great piece of advice. I always defer to other professionals. So what I want to tell you guys is this. That is it for my conversation with agency tonight. Tomorrow in the morning, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going to say how we choose a broker. How do we choose a broker? Well, first of all, you have to make sure that your broker likes chicken nuggets. Your broker wears fedoras, and also your broker has to like Shirley Temples. If not, they aren't really a broker now, are they? So, guys, tomorrow, how to choose a broker, 9 a.m. Pacific Time, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then in the evening, we're going to have everyone's favorite Friday, Facebook Friday. That's where we go through your questions, your concerns, your burning desires, all that kind of wonderful, amazing, fantastic stuff. Yeah, give yourself a gold star if you've stuck around with me this long. And what I'll tell you is this, Saturday, you got a special, 12 p.m., 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Joe, Instagram, hashtag real estate agent, hashtag welcome to the big show. For those of you who just passed your exam, again, congrats. For those of you who are taking your exam, good luck. And what I'm going to tell you guys is this, I'm going to see you real soon.